All right. So this will be my first video going full screen, not having a desktop screen open or anything to show you guys. But there was a topic I wanted to cover that honestly probably didn't even need my browser for. I just wanted to talk about how much a SaaS should typically spend on SEO if they're considering it, just things they need to know, how they should allocate that budget, what they should be spending that budget on, and basically just how to get the most out of your SEO investment. Also, hopefully, as you can tell, my space is pretty blank. I just recently moved to Colorado. Only thing on my wall is this nice Joel Embiid poster or portrait. He's holding cheesesteaks. Hope you enjoy. But going back to the main topic of how much you should spend on SEO if you're considering it, I think this is a question that typically throws off most companies, especially if you're a startup, if you're a mid-sized company, or if you're an enterprise level company. I think normally the common suggestion is going as a percentage rather than like a fixed monthly price. So if your income or if your revenue, like basically you would take 5% of your overall revenue and apply that to either marketing or SEO. In most cases, if you have $100,000 in revenue, if you apply 5%, usually that's just going to be $5,000 per month dedicated towards SEO. Really, it can depend on what other marketing channels you're going after, how many marketing channels you guys are balancing, whether you're balancing six other channels, three other channels. It seems like 5% is usually just the general recommendation. I will say if you are going on a fixed monthly budget, typically we say around, I don't know, anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 seems to be the average for most companies. And that's strictly just for SEO. Obviously, if you have a larger size company, it's going to be more common for you to spend a little bit more on SEO. Like I've seen cases where companies are spending $25,000 per month on just strictly SEO. So a lot of it really depends on what your overall goals are. If you're trying to build authority with your website, if you're trying to scale up content, if it's technical SEO, a lot of it really depends website to website. So it's really hard to say a strict budget that really applies to most websites. So really, a lot of it's going to come down to your website and strictly the budget that you have available. But if you like, say, if you're also investing in SEO and you're also investing in other channels as well too, let's say you're investing in social, you're investing in paid, and you're also investing in email. That's when it starts to get a little murky because now you're going to have to split the budget between those channels. Usually, if you can try and keep it pretty similar or pretty equal in terms of budget you allocate. Usually that's the general recommendation. Obviously, if you're incorporating paid channels like PPC, LinkedIn ads, then that's when we're going to be spending a little bit more. Probably there's going to be a little bit of a discrepancy between how much budget gets allocated to PPC versus SEO. But in any case, you don't want it to be like a 75-25% switch. Just because with PPC, yes, it can be a great acquisition channel, but it's one of those things where you're going to be throwing a ton of money on the fire. And yes, you can get results, but once you turn off that faucet, those leads are immediately going to stop coming in. If you're doing SEO, you at least want to have a little bit of a balanced budget. So if for whatever reason you stop spending on paid, whether it's Google ads or LinkedIn ads, you at least have something working in the background that is still performing even though that channel has been turned off. Another question I commonly get asked is how heavy of an investment is SEO? Does it need to be something we really need to go all in? Is it something we actually need? And of course, as an SEO, I'm sure any SEO is going to tell you this. They're going to say yes. Obviously, in some cases, I think there's some websites that probably could do without SEO, especially in the cases where you're strictly a startup and you don't have any demand for your product whatsoever. A lot of your efforts are going to be focused on demand generation versus demand capture. In the cases where there is demand for your product, there is a demand for your service, or there is a demand for your brand, that's when SEO is like the pitch perfect channel. But in any case where there really isn't any demand and a lot of the marketing is going to be dedicated towards generating demand, SEO is usually not the best channel to get started with. But we're talking about SEO, and if you're planning on moving forward with it, if it actually is a channel that you really should invest in, if you have the budget for it, I usually say yes, just in the case, like using that example, when you do have demand for your product, usually SEO is a channel that you do want to go all in with. And I don't mean throw everything you have at it. I just mean it's a channel you don't really want to like half-ass basically. When you get started with SEO, it's either, all right, you're fully invested or you're not going to see any results from it. If I only do an article per month and that's like my test to see if SEO works, we're really not going to see anything from it. But if we do a 2-3 month sprint, then that's our way of telling if SEO is going to be a successful channel or not, and if we need to continue with the investment. For those first 3 months, it does need to be an investment that you're going all in with. So you can't really half ass it. You have to actually really go through, just follow through with it. One last thing that people usually ask me is just how long should I invest in SEO? That one's a little, I hate to give this answer, but it really comes down to it depends. It's an answer you're probably going to hear a lot of SEOs give. But really, it depends on what kind of company you are, how old your website is, what type of content you have, what authority you have. There's a lot of variables that are going to affect that answer. If you are a startup and you have a brand new website, like no authority built up whatsoever, I would say in that case, you're probably looking at closer to 6 months versus 3 months. If you are a more established company, you already have a brand presence, you already are getting traffic, and it's a little bit of a mix between brand and non branded, then usually we can see results in 3 months. Usually that's pretty easy to accomplish. But I will say, again, can really depend on your market, previous SEO that's been done to your website, how much authority your website naturally built out. Authority meaning backlinks pointing to your website. But in any case, if you're a startup with a brand new website, I would usually say 3 to 6 months, usually at the minimum. People will say month to month, it could be, but if you're a brand new website, a lot of it's going to be focused on just creating new content. And lastly, most people usually just ask how to get the most out of your SEO investment. And I think this is the part that really gives SEO a bad rep. You have all of these companies spending like $10,000 a month and not really seeing any results from their SEO campaign. So if you want to get the most out of your SEO budget, I recommend being as specific and precise with the tactics you go after as possible. So if you're spending $10,000 a month, you need to make sure that the content and the links you build are actually content and links that are going to help you in the long run. If we're talking about content specifically, if you're just building out a glossary of top of funnel topics, like what is project management or what is task management, yeah, you're going to get traffic from that, but that's not something that's really going to signal any kind of intent for someone to take that next step and consider your product. So even if you have a $10,000 budget, if you have a $2,000 budget, whatever type of budget you have available, make sure you start with the topics that actually are going to drive results. Just don't focus on traffic as your main priority. Your priority is going to be getting signups, especially as a startup where funds are finite. Really, the biggest thing you want to do is focus on topics that actually are going to drive revenue. So, starting with your bottom of funnel topics, moving up to your middle of funnel topics, and honestly, ignoring top of the funnel. I really don't think it's worth it. Unless you're an established company, then it might be worth it. But in any case, if you're also doing links, you want to make sure that those links are actually links that are going to benefit you in the long term. You'll hear commonly that people are going to recommend digital PR. Personally, I think that's probably one of the best link building tactics there are out there. It is going to be expensive just because of the quality of the work that you receive. So if you're doing digital PR, you're going to get placements on actual well-known publications like New York Times, Forbes, entrepreneur.com. If you actually do digital PR, you're putting your brand in front of the companies that actually care about who you are and the product you have to offer. So not only are you getting that PR approach, but you're also getting backlinks at the same time. So there we get the name digital PR. So that's honestly where your money would probably be best fit. If you're just creating guest posts on a random site, or if you're creating thought leadership that no one's going to read, as long as it's on a website where there actually is traffic, then yes, go for it. But if it's just like a link for the sake of a link, like it's on a high DA site, but that site doesn't have any traffic whatsoever, ignore it. It's just going to be wasted marketing dollars.